All right, so the last two sections of Chapter 3, at least the non-review sections, are sections on money, and we're exclusively going to use the money features that are built into the TI 83 and 84 calculators to solve the problems. The problems that we're going to solve using the calculators, they won't be that hard to solve. To solve them without the calculators, you'd have to use at least one formula for each problem, perhaps 2 or 3 or 4 formulas to get to an answer to a problem. And the formulas are really rather impressive to look at, and they're hard to enter on your calculator. It's kind of tricky to know what formula to use for what problem or what combination of formulas to use. So we're just going to use the finance feature on our calculator to rock these problems, and it shouldn't be too bad, at least not once you get into it quite a ways. Maybe at first it might be kind of clunky, but eventually it'll get so it's not too bad. And this is like the only material that we do, sections 3.5 and 3.6, that might be different than other Math 142 classes. We're supposed to do mathematics of finance in Math 142, but I don't know of any other teacher that uses the calculator to do the problems, nor do they do exactly the same kind of problems. For a lot of you, this is your last math class, and I just tried to make up some kind of semi-realistic problems to help you, at some point in your life. And this version of my mathematics of finance, my money problems, is, I don't know, a toned down version of what I used to do. I used to have a pretty intense couple sections, actually a whole chapter of money problems, and my students really didn't like that chapter at all. So I kind of took out some of the stuff that I thought was most interesting and just broke it down into 2 sections of stuff that I think you should just know. So it's supposed to be interesting. Like I said, when I started writing this material, I was like, oh, everybody's gonna love this. And then I found out that that's absolutely not the case, that maybe I was the only one that loved it. When I was, in my teens or early 20s, I was an accounting major, and I took a finance class, and this stuff really interested me, and I just thought it would interest everybody, and that's not true. So we're going to just learn to use our calculator to solve loan problems, and like car loans, house loans, and then savings problems. On my calculator, most of the problems that I'm going to solve, at least at one point, are going to involve getting into the finance feature of my calculator. I'm trying to get this so you can see it as best you can possibly see it. That's just, of course, never that easy. So on my calculator, there is a button labeled apps, and that button's in purple on my calculator, I guess purplish. And if I hit that apps button, my calculator comes up and it has a lot of features. I'm not sure if that's standard or not, but this is just a calculator I got from the cashier in the C building on campus, so I'd like to think this isn't anything special. And the first tab that comes up on mine is finance after I hit the apps button. I imagine it's the first on yours. If you hit enter on finance, you'll get to a submenu that we'll use to solve all the finance problems. Most of the problems in the next 2 sections, the submenu labeled TVM solver. TVM means time value of money. I guess solver, solving time value of money problems, will be where we go. So if you hit apps, hit enter once on finance, and then hit enter once on TVM solver, you'll get to a screen that we're going to use to solve most of our problems. You'll notice that my calculator, when I brought this screen up, has numbers in for each one of the variables. That's because I was using this to solve, I can envision the problem that I was solving just by the numbers in here. I imagine, because in a loan problem, PV is generally the loan amount and PMT is generally the payment amount. This problem that I was probably solving is I owed $7,757 on a car loan. I'm paying $342 a month, 12 times per year. how long is it going to take to pay off, and N is the answer. It's 24 months. So I think that's probably the problem that I was solving, or something similar to that. And that's the kind of problems we're eventually going to need to solve. Before we jump into a complex problem like that, we need to know what each of the letters on this screen mean, and that's kind of written here. So in a loan problem, the N's going to be a number of payments. In this case, it's 24.6 payments, 24 full payments and 1 partial payment. The I is the interest rate. So if this was a car loan, the interest rate is 7.9%. The PV is the loan amount. And in loan problems, in fact, in all money problems that we're going to use our calculator to solve money questions, the signs of the dollar amounts get to be important. And in a loan problem, the PV is the amount that you owe, or the amount that you're borrowing for a vehicle or house, and the PV is generally entered as a positive amount. The PMT stands for the monthly payment, or it doesn't have to be monthly payment. You could be making payments every 2 weeks. You could be making payments once a year. But in loan problems, the payments are usually monthly. And the PMT stands for the amount of your payment. And it generally, in a loan problem, has a negative attached to it. And it's this kind of negative. So that 342 that's blinking on the PMT, the negative that's it is in front of it is this kind of negative. It's not a minus above the plus sign, it's a negative. I refer to that as a minus and this as a negative. So this is divide times minus plus, and that's negative. And so that's a negative amount. So those are the first 4 figures. The number of payments, the interest rate as a percent, present value, loan amount and loan problems, PMT, the payment, usually present values, the loan amounts are positive, the payments are negative. The FV is generally going to be 0 in loan problems. It stands for the future value. That's kind of the value when the loan gets paid off, and we're normally going to put 0. I used to do lease problems, and in a lease problem, if you've ever leased a car, there's a residual value. Like when you turn the car in, it's going to have some value. That residual value would go in the future value, but that's a little too complex. That's more something you should do in a finance class. So for in section 3.5 that we're doing exclusively loan problems, the FV stands for future value, and it's generally going to be 0 in all of our problems. I can't think of a problem in section 3.5 where it isn't going to be 0. P/Y stands for the number of payments per year. And generally, if you're doing a car loan or a house loan, you're making payments once a month, and the PY is generally going to be 12. If some of you have a house loan, you might make your payment every 2 weeks to pay off your house quicker, and then the PY would be a different number. It'd actually be 26 if you did that. But in this particular section, we're doing exclusively car loans and home loans, and every one of them is going to have monthly payments, so the PY is going to be 12. The CY, it means compounding per year. It's how often interest is charged, and generally, and generally it's the same as the PY. And in both sections 3.5 and 3.6, and we'll never differentiate the payments per year, the number of payments you're making each year, and how often interest is computed each year will be the same. That's just to kind of simplify things. They don't absolutely have to be the same. But again, trying to get into all the really fine minutia, it gets maybe to be a little bit overwhelming. So it's just kind of a really general overview of mathematics of finance, but it's good enough. It's going to work for most anything you might ever do. So like if you're going to a car dealership and you're trying to figure out what your car payment can be, you can figure it out, before the dealer comes, or before the salesman comes in and puts a piece of paper in front of your place saying this is what your payment's going to be. And then the last toggle on this is the begin and end. And in our class, we will leave this on end 100% of the time. We'll never put it on begin. Sometimes students will do the homework and they'll get an answer that's different than mine, but close. And usually if you get an answer that's different than mine but close to mine, your begin is highlighted. And in terms of a loan problem, this has to, the begin and the end has to do with when your first payment would be made. Like if you went and bought a car today and the first payment was due today, then you'd compute your payment by putting your calculator on the bottom on begin. If your payment isn't due for a month, you'd have your tab on the bottom on end. And I can't think of a time where your first payment is taken out the day that you take your loan. So for us, we'll always leave it on end. So again, if for loan problems, the N is the number of payments, the I is the interest rate, the PV is the loan amount, it's generally positive, the PMT is the monthly payment, it's generally negative, future value is what you owe after the loan's paid off, for us it's always going to be 0, PY is the number of payments per year, for us in loan problems it's going to be 12, CY is how often interest is being paid, for us it's going to be 12, and PMT is whether you're making a payment a month from the day that you take the loan or the day that you take the loan. We're always going to leave it on end. You'll, when we get a little bit deeper into this, if you took this calculator to a dealership to figure out your car payment, let's say, today's December 26th, and I go to buy a Ford F-250 for $36,000, and I know my interest rate and I know that I'm financing for, let's say, 6 years, my calculator will come back with a payment, and the dealer might come back with a payment that's like 50 cents different than my payment. The reason for the discrepancy between the dealer's payment and your payment is the calculator assumes that your first payment is 1 month from the day that you take the loan. So if today is December 26th, it would assume my first payment is due January 26th, when in fact your first payment probably isn't due to February 1st. So that little fudging, because your first payment isn't exactly 1 month from the day of the loan, can cause the payment amount to be just a little bit different. But it's not different enough that it's worth teaching you how to get the exact payment. If you want to, I could teach you how to do that. It would just be a matter of accruing some interest into the payment, and it's tedious, but I can teach you how to do it if you want something to be exact. If you're taking this calculator to a dealer and being within 50 cents or $1 isn't enough, then I can help you get better. All right, so first example, we're gonna buy a new car. I'm taking a $25,000 loan. So I've worked out all the specifics, and I want to know what my monthly payment's gonna be. Well, in order to know my monthly payment, I need to know the amount of the loan, which is $25,000. I need to know how many payments. And in 6 years, if you're taking a 6-year loan, that's 72 months. If you put 6 in for the number of payments, that means you'd be paying that off in 6 months. 6 times 12 is 72. So the number of payments is the number of years times the 12 months, because you're making monthly payments. So that 72 payments is going to go in for the N. And there's my interest rate, and it tells me the interest is paid every month. So what I'm going to do is go to my TVM solver, and I'm going to enter everything that I need to know. So for the N, I'm going to type in the number of payments. In this case, it's going to be 72. For the I, I'm going to put the interest rate without the percent sign, but not as a decimal, as a percent. I'm going to put in 4.9. The PV is going to be the loan amount. And our problem is 25,000. I don't need dollar signs. I don't need commas. The PMT stands for the payment. This is what I'm going to solve for. My PMT has a dollar amount in there already. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to leave it there. Once I get the rest of the figures in, my calculator will put the right payment in when I tell it to put the right payment in. For the PY, I'm going to put 12 in on my calculator because I'm making monthly payments, and that's the number of payments per year. And CY is how often interest is paid, and in my calculator I'm going to put 12 in, and on the bottom I'm going to leave it at end. So I'm going to put all those into my calculator, and my calculator has 374 in for the payment. It doesn't matter to me what's in there. Yours could be blank, or it could have a number in there. It doesn't matter what's in there for the time being. So go to pretend I'm not here. So I'm on my main screen right now. So to get to the screen that I need to compute a payment, I hit the apps button, which is this button that's kind of purplish. and then I hit enter on finance, and then I hit enter on TVM solver. And I'm just going to type over anything that's in my TVM solver already. So my N at 24.6 in it, I'm going to type the number 72 and hit enter for the 6 years or 72 payments. For the interest rate, I'm going to type over what's in there, type in 4.9 and hit enter. As soon as I start typing the 25,000 in for the PV, it's going to delete the 7,000 that's in there. So as soon as I hit the 2, it cleared out everything for me. So it lets me type over real easy. There's the 25,000, and there's my $342 payment. I'm going to leave that in there. I don't care what's in there right now. I'm going to go down my future. Oh, I forgot future value. It needs to be 0 because that's what I wanted to owe when it's paid off. And my PY is going to be 12. If I type the number 12 in, it will automatically make the CY 12. So if you have your calculator displaying exactly what mine has, other than your PMT could be different, you're ready to tell your calculator to compute the payment. To get your calculator to compute the payment, you need to use your up arrow and get the cursor flashing on the PMT. So I went through, I hit apps, finance, TVM solver. I entered everything but the PMT, 72 for the N, 4.9 for the I, 25,000 for the PV, 0 for the FV, 12 for the PY, 12 for the CY, put the PMT on end. I have my cursor now flashing on the 342.74, and it can't be 342.74. Doesn't matter what's in there. As long as your cursor now is flashing on the PMT, you hit the green alpha button, and then you hit the enter key. And your calculator is going to compute what your monthly payment's going to be, and it's going to be $441.46. Again, that's assuming your first payment is 1 month from the day that you make the loan. And because I'm doing rounding, if you took your loan and you signed the paperwork for this, it'll probably say something like you have 71 payments of $401.46 and 1 payment of $401.98. So because payments are always rounded to 2 decimal places, and because the payment usually doesn't have an exact 2 decimal, it's always rounded, then usually you get everything but the last payment would be the same amount. So my answer for this question, what is the monthly payment? The monthly payment is $401, and I'll round it to 46 cents. That's all just telling me. And again, the negative sign in front of the payment tells it's money that I'm paying. The loan doesn't give a negative sign in front of it because I didn't spend $25,000. I was essentially given the $25,000. When I was given the car, or I was given the loan. I was given the money to pay the loan, or something of that nature. So the PV is generally positive. The PMT is generally negative in our loan problems. So the first 6 problems are just computing monthly payments. So I'll do number 2. You can try number 1. And you should check your answer for number 1. So when I do number 2, been hanging out with my 12-year-old nephew too much. When I solve question 2, I want to, on my calculator, know exactly what numbers I'm going to put in for everything on the TVM solver. And the bottom's always going to be on end. And for my problem 2, it says my loan is for 7 years, and 7 times 12 makes 84 payments. It says the interest rate is 2.9%. Says the loan amount is $30,000. I'm going to tell it to solve for the PMT. The future value, I want to owe 0 when it's paid off. I'm making monthly payments, so the PY is 12. Interest, the PY and the CY in all our problems in sections 3.5 and 3.6 will be the same, so it's going to be 12, and I'm going to leave everything on end. So now I'm just going to pull out my calculator. It's already on the TVM solver screen, so I can just type over everything that's in there. So I'm going to scroll up to the N and type in 84. When I hit enter, it drops me down to the I. And the rest of my calculator is right. The FV is 0, I don't need to change it. The PY and the CY are still 12, I don't need to change it. And the end is on. So I have everything that I need to have typed in. I have my cursor now flashing on the PMT. Once I have everything but the unknown typed in, you move to the unknown, in this case it's the PMT, get the cursor flashing by it, you hit the green alpha button, and then the enter key. And that's going to tell me that this payment is, I'm going to round to $395.05 a month. So for question 2, the monthly payment is $395.05. 3 and 4 should be about the same. So these are purchasing cheaper cars in some sense and having shorter loans. So when I do number 4, I need to gear up, so I have to get the N ready, the I ready, PV, PMT, FV, PY, CY. I leave the bottom on N for every problem in this section whenever we're about to begin. So as I read through the problem, the first number I see, the 10,000 is the loan amount, it goes in for the PV. The next number that I see is 3 years and 36 months. The 3 years and 36 months are the same amount of time, but I need the 36 for the 36 months. The only other number I see is the 8% interest. So those are the numbers that are in the problem. The rest of the numbers are either unknown or I just have to infer them from the problem. The FV is going to be the 0 that I want to owe when the car is paid off. And the PY and the CY, I'm making 12 payments per year because I'm making monthly payments and there's 12 months in a year. And then I leave the calculator on end. So I'm still on that TVM solver, which is a good thing. Now I'm just going to cursor up to the N, type in 36, 8 for the I, 10,000 for the PV, that's 100,000, idiot. And now I have the bottom already set up, so I don't have to recalibrate that. It's all okay. My cursor now is flashing on the payment. I hit the green alpha button and then the enter key. And I get $313.36 for this car. So the answer to number 4 is $313.36 for my monthly payment. 5 and 6, I'm doing house loans, and house loans are more complicated because, like, when I pay my mortgage, I send in, my mortgage does more than pay my house loan. It also pays my property taxes and it pays my homeowner's insurance. When I used to add that into the mix, it was too much for some students. Some students that have had home loans understand escrow accounts and what all goes into a house payment. For what it's worth, we're doing the PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance portion. We're doing just the PI, principal and interest, as opposed to principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So I'm ignoring a part of what I'm paying each month. So if you ever go out and shop for a new house, this is going to give you the ability to compute the bulk of your monthly payment. In order to get the rest of the monthly payment, you have to know how much your homeowner's insurance is. Like, my homeowner's insurance is about $600 a year, which is $50 a month. And what your property taxes are, my property taxes are about $1,800 a year, which is $150 a month. So each month I have to send in an extra $50 to pay for my homeowner's insurance and an extra $150 to pay into my property taxes, and that's all lumped together in one house payment. And those, my $150 that I send in for property taxes, my $50 that I send in from homeowner's insurance, which is $200 combined, would be added to the amount that my calculator comes up with right now. So to do a loan problem and figure out a payment, it doesn't matter what you're borrowing. still going to use the same screen. So I'm always leaving the bottom on end. So as I read through this, the first number I see is I have a $200,000 loan. So $200,000 is going to be the PV because that's the loan amount. And then the next numbers I see, 30 years is the same as 360 months. For the N, I'm going to plug in 360 for the number of payments. And the last number I see is a 4.5% interest rate. And historically, 4.5% is amazing for a 30-year loan. It went down into the threes for a while. I mean, my parents in 1981, well, my parents didn't make any money in 1981. My dad made minimum wage and my mother made just above minimum wage. And they got a special low-income family loan that the government backed, some bond that Phoenix had, and their interest rate was like 10.75%. So this 4.5, which is kind of a in the mid 2000s, interest rate is historically amazingly good. Anyways, getting back to this, I'm going to solve for the payment. The future value is going to be what I want to owe when it's paid off, which is 0. I'm making monthly payments, and interest is charged every month. When I do those on my calculator, I'll get the monthly payment, except for the taxes and insurance. Like I said, for mine, I'd add another $200 to this. So I'm going to scroll up, make the N 360, make the I 4.5, make the PV 200,000. Everything else is okay other than the payment, and I don't care that the payment is in the payment because my calculator will type over it. So I have everything other than the payment in. My cursor is flashing on the payment. I hit the green alpha button and then I hit enter. And this gives me $1,013.37 per month. And like I said, if you were buying my house, you'd have to add another $200 a month to cover property taxes and insurance. So your monthly payment would really be more like $1,200 a month. All right. The next group of problems allows me to figure out how much I owe in the future. So if you make all your payments on time, you don't even need to go to a website to figure out how much you owe. You can calculate it yourself. So this is the next batch of problems. So the next batch of problems, we purchase a car and we pay on it for a little bit of time. We want to know how much we owe after 2 years. So this is a two-step problem. So I need to know how much I'm paying for the 2 years that I've owned the car. So I purchased the car for $25,000, took a 6-year loan, have a 4.9% interest rate. How much will be owed after 2 years? Well, first of all, I have to get the loan in my calculator's memory. So I'm going to calculate the payment so my calculator understands which loan I'm talking about. In for the N, I'm going to plug 72. In for the I, I'm going to plug 4.9. In for the PV, I'm going to do the loan amount, which is $25,000. In for the PMT, I'm going to solve. Future value is going to be 0. PY is going to be 12. CY is going to be 12. And I'm going to leave my calculator on end. And I'm going to compute the payment for this car. So go up, change the N to 72, the I to 4.9, the PV to 25,000. Everything else is okay other than the payment. Then I hit alpha and enter. So there's the payment for this. So every month for 2 years, I'm making $401.46 in for my payment. If I wanted to round this and not have all the decimals, it'd be fine, but I don't even need to take the time to do that. I'll get an answer that's accurate enough. So Now I'm ready to answer the question. The question that's posed in this problem is not what my payment is, but it's how much will I owe after 2 years? Well, first of all, my calculator won't care about years, it cares about months. So how much is owed after 2 years? 2 years is 24 months. So because 2 times 12 is 24. So really the question that would have been more helpful is how much will I still be owe after 24 months? So originally I owed $25,000. This is a 6-year loan. I'm going to owe more than half. So it's going to be more than $12,500 because it's not even half the loan term. So if I get an answer that's less than $12,500, I think I've messed up because I haven't even paid half the time. I shouldn't have half the car paid off. If I get an answer over $25,000, that would seem weird too. How could I owe more than the amount? So this is a little bit tricky. So to find a balance, I have to know how many months I want the balance after. So my TVM solver needs to look just like it looks right now. It has to have the monthly payment in the TVM solver. And once I have the monthly payment in the TVM solver, if I want to find the balance after 24 months, I hit the second button and then the mode key. So I'm going to hit second and then mode. And my calculator comes back to the main screen. If you have junk on the main screen, it doesn't matter. You just can clear it out and it'll go away. So again, my finance screen looks like that. I hit second and then mode, and my calculator comes back to the main screen. If you have junk on your main screen, hit the clear screen, it'll take rid of it. Now we're going to go tell my calculator to figure out a balance. And my calculator has a feature to figure out a balance, but it's hidden. To find it, first you hit the apps key. Second, you hit enter on finance. But I don't use the TVM solver. The TVM solver won't do balances. What I do is I arrow down, and I keep arrowing down until I get to the thing that says BAL. So there is BAL. So I did apps, enter on finance, and then I can arrow up or I can arrow down. Let's go bi-directional. And you want to get your cursor so that the balance, BAL, is highlighted. And what I'm going to get to be displayed on my main screen is BAL, which means balance. And then the parentheses that it's going to put in for me, I'm going to put 24. That's the balance after 24 months or after 2 years. So I'm going to hit enter on balance. And now I'm going to type the number 24 because it's the balance after 2 years, and 2 years is 24 months. I don't have to close the parentheses, but I will. And so the answer to this problem, how much is owed after 2 years? Your initial loan was $25,000, and after 2 years, you still owe $17,467.12. I think that's what the next group of problems are all going to have the same strategy. All right. So for each of the problems between 7 and 12, first I have to get the calculator to compute the payment. So when I'm going to do number 8, in the same way you should do number 7. Step 1 is to use the beginning information to compute the monthly payment, and then I'll do the last part. So let me get the payment set up for number 8, because my calculator can't compute the balance if it doesn't know the terms of the loan. So for my loan in problem 8, $30,000 is the loan amount, so I put that in for the PV. The loan is for 7 years or 84 months. My N is going to be 84. The interest rate is 2.9%. I'm going to figure out the payment. The future value is going to be 0. I'm making 12 payments per year, and the interest is paid every month. So I'm going to go ahead and compute the payment now. So I'm going to go apps, enter on finance, enter on TVM solver, 84 for the N, 2.9 for the I, 30,000 for the PV. The 0 for the FV is fine. The PY and the CY for 12 are fine. Now I'm going to hit my green alpha button and hit enter. So the payment is $395.05. Rounded at least. So my calculator now knows the loan that we're referring to. Now I'm going to have it compute the balance, and it's the balance after 3 years. And 3 years is not 3 payments or not 3 months. I'm going to have to go 3 times 12. I'm going to change the years to months. And I'm going to have my calculator do balance after 36 months. So now I break out my calculator. I hit the apps button, hit enter on finance, and I either go up or down until I find BAL. Once I find BAL, I have the cursor highlighted on the BAL. I hit enter. Oh, idiot. I'm sorry, I forgot to quit out of there. Let me just get this back. I should have said I need to go second in mode. I forgot that little step, and my calculator was getting confused. So I recalculated the payment. So my TVM solver has exactly what it needs to have. It has the loan amount, the payment, the number of months, the interest rate. Now I hit second and quit. Then I go apps, enter on finance, go up or down to find BAL. I like to put it in the middle so it's more seeable. And then type the number 36 for 3 years, close out the parentheses, and this will be the answer. So after 3 years, well, pretty similar amount, $17,883, and I'll round it to 46 cents. So the answer to number 8, after 3 years, we owe $17,883.46. So 9 and 10 should be just like this, as will 11 and 12 be just like this. So we'll have to compute the payment first, and then once the payment's loaded up in the TVM solver, we find the balance. So for 10, first compute the PMT. So I'm going to go N, I, PV, PMT, FV, PY, CY, and end. The end is going to be, the 10,000 is the loan amount, so that's going to be the PV. The N is going to be the 36 months. The I is going to be the 8%. I'm solving for the payment. The future value is going to be 0. The PY and the CY are going to be 12, and the calculator will be left on end. So I have to know the loan that I'm talking about. So apps, enter, TVM solver. N is 36, I is 8, PV is 10,000. Now alpha, enter on the payment, so that we did this payment already, $313.36. Now that the payment is in there, I can find the balance. And I'm finding the balance after 1 year, and 1 year is 12 months. It's not 1 month. So I'm going to tell my calculator to do balance 12. And before I can do balance 12, I have to quit out of the screen. So I hit second and the mode key. Gets me to the main screen. Then I go apps, finance, find BAL, hit enter on BAL, type 12 months, don't even need to close my parentheses, and it's going to be $6,928.64 after 1 year. So the answer to number 10 is $6,928.64. 11 and 12 should be the same. I think they're with house payments. So I'll do 11, you should do 12. First thing for number 12 I'm going to do is figure out the payment for this loan. and then I can find its balance. So for my problem, the first number I see is $200,000. That's the loan amount. The next numbers I see are 30 years, which is 360 months. I plug 360 in for the number of payments. I see 4.5 for the interest rate. I'm going to solve for the payment. The future value is going to be 0, and I'm making 12 payments per year. So this is going to get the payment loaded up in my calculator. So now apps, finance, calc, so 360 for the number, 4.5 for the interest rate, 200,000, so that's one more 0, 200,000 for the loan, everything else is okay, alpha and enter, the monthly payment is $1,013. Now I'm going to find the balance, and it's the balance after 10 years. To take 10 years and make it into months, it's 10 years times 12 payments per month, per year. It's 120 payments. So on my calculator, I'm not going to do balance 10 because that would find the balance after 10 months, not 10 years. I'm going to do balance 120 on my calculator, and that would be the balance after 10 years. It'll be depressing. Home loans go down really, really slowly. We started off at 200. I bet you it's like 160. It goes, after 10 years, you're not going to be a third of the way through. A third of the way through would be about 60,000. Oh gosh, about 67,000 through. It's going to be, I bet you it's going to be 165 then. But I don't know for a fact. So now to do the balance, I hit second in mode. So second in mode, and then apps, finance, find balance, and then type 120. And it's $160,178.87. So the number 12, my answer after 10 years, on a $200,000 loan, I still owe $160,178.87. It's really, really slow going in terms of getting your loan down to a manageable amount when it's a home loan. Auto loans, because the terms are so short, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 years, the balance goes down pretty quickly. But home loans take forever, ever to get lower. All right, so another problem, and this is nice to know, used to be when you had a car loan, you could deduct the interest on your taxes. You can't anymore, but this is what this shows. It's going to show me how much interest we're going to pay. So there's a two-part problem. So we're purchasing a $25,000 car, wanting to figure out the monthly payment, and then it asks me how much interest I'm going to pay over the loan. So all right, so first thing, figure out the monthly payment. So to figure out a monthly payment, I need an N, an I, PV, payment, future value, PY, CY, and end. First number I see is 25,000. That's the PV because that's the loan amount. It's positive. Next number I see is 6 years, which is 72 months. That's the N. Last number I see is a 4.9 for the I. I'm solving for the payment. Future value is going to be 0. PY is going to be 12. CY is going to be 12, and my calculator is going to be on end. Apparently I should get 401.46, but let me make sure. So apps, finance, TVM solver. Scroll up, N is 72, I is 4.9, PV is 25,000. Nicely, everything else is correct, so I get to the payment and I hit alpha and enter, and I get $401.46. Okay, last part of this, that's part A. So what's my monthly payment? $401.46. How much interest will be paid over the term of the loan? This is a little bit trickier on my calculator, but not ridiculous. There, on that screen, when I was going to find the balance, there's a switch, or there's an option that looks like this. I'm going to use that option. This means add up the interest. So it means sum the interest. So let me get to that real quickly. I'm going to get out of the loan payment screen calculating by hitting second in mode. Now I'm going to hit the apps key, hit enter on finance, and find that thing that says sum of interest. That'll add up the interest. Oh, there it is, sum of interest. So make it so you can see it. And now I'm going to hit enter on that, and my calculator has the sum of interest, and now I need to tell it what period of interest that I want. So I need to put two numbers separated by a comma, and the numbers I'm going to put in are 1 from the first payment and 72 from the last payment. If I did 1 comma 12, it would do the payment for the first 12 months or the first year. If I did 13 comma 24, it would go from the 13th payment to the 24th payment. It would do interest for the second year. If I did 25 to 36, it would do the interest for the third year, and so forth. But I'm going to have it do add the interest starting with the first payment, ending with the 72nd payment, and that's all the payments. So it's going to add the interest for every single payment on this loan. So I'm going to go sum of interest 1, and then the comma is right next to the right parentheses, and then 72, close out my parentheses, and it'll add the interest up for me. For this loan, notice the amount comes out to be negative because it's money that I'm spending. $3,905.46 is the monthly interest. So for part B, the monthly interest is $3,905.46. All right, let's probably do some homework problems then. So 13 is there for you, 14 is there for me. First thing I'm going to do is figure out a payment. It's the first thing you need to do too. So to do a payment, we need values for the N, in the I, in the PV. We're going to solve for payment. I need to put in values for future value, PY, CY, and my calculator goes on end. So for my problem 14, the PV is $20,000. The N is 84 months. The I is 6%. Solving for the payment. My future value is going to be 0. My PY and CY are going to be 12, and my calculator is going to be on end. So can I make you see this? So apps, finance, enter. N is 84, I is 6, PV is 20,000, was missing a 0 there. So I have everything on there, and I go alpha and enter on the payment, and my payment is $292.17. Now I'm going to do the interest over the term of the loan. And on my calculator, I'm going to have it go sum of interest. That means add up the interest, starting with the first payment, ending with the 84th payment. So I'm going to do that on my calculator, and it'll do the work for me once I tell it to do the work. So that's what my goal is, to enter this on my calculator, because this app is going to add up the interest when you over the range that you tell it. I want it for the term of the loan, so from the first to the 84th payment. So I go back onto my calculator, second in mode to get out of the screen, clear out there because it's getting junky. Go apps, finance. I think if you go up, you'll get to sum of interest a lot quicker as opposed to going down. There's sum of interest, hit enter on it, and then 1 comma 84. Close out my parentheses, and when I hit enter in, it'll give me the answer. For you, you're going to do sum of interest 1 comma 72 because you have a 72-month loan. And I get $4,542.37. I'm not going to put the sign on there. The calculator tells me if a number is negative, it's money I'm spending. So my answer for this is $4,542.37, and put the dollar sign with it. So the next two problems should be the same. So 15 is your problem, 16 is mine. They work the same. First, I'm going to figure out a payment, and then I'm going to figure out how much interest we pay for the whole loan. So for my problem 16, the first number I see is $18,000. That's the amount of my car loan. The next two numbers I see are 5 years, which is 60 months. I'm going to put 60 in for the N. And I see 9 for the interest rate. I'm going to put 0 for the future value. My PY and my CY are the 12 months payments I'm going to make each month. So now I go apps, finance, enter, 60 for the N, 9 for the interest rate, 18,000 for the loan amount. And then alpha, enter, I get $373.65. And then how much interest will be paid over the life of the loan? I'm going to do sum of interest, starting with the first payment, and this is a 60-month loan, ending with the 60th payment. So, second and quit, apps, finance, go up to find sum of interest, 1 comma 60, and I get $419.02. That's a lot of interest. On an $18,000 loan to have $4,000 worth of interest, it's because the interest rate is so high. 9% is, reasonably high interest rate for a car. The lower the interest rate, the less your interest is going to be. But $4,000 isn't a lot compared to what it's going to be on a home loan. On a home loan, it's shocking how much interest you pay over a 30-year loan. And that's what 17 and 18 ask us to do. They give us information of a home loan. They want us to figure out the payment and how much interest is paid. So I'll do 18. First part of 18 is figuring out a monthly payment. First number I see in 18 is the $250,000, which is the PV, which is the loan amount. Next numbers I see help me get the N of 360. Then I see a 5.25 for the interest rate. I'm going to solve for the payment. Future value is going to be 0. The PY and the CY are going to be 12, and I always leave my calculator on end. So apps, finance, enter, N is 360, I is 5.225, loan amount 250,000, and then alpha and enter, so $1,380.51. And then for part B, I'm going to do sum of interest, starting with the first payment, ending with the last payment, which is a 360th payment. So I'm going to do sum of interest 1 comma 360. It's going to be shocking. It's a $250,000 loan. It's probably going to be more than $250,000 worth of interest. So second quit, apps, finance, sum of interest 1 comma 360. Oh, it's almost exactly that. So you get 200 making $46,983.33. So it's almost, the interest is almost equal to the amount of the loan. And that's not surprising in a house loan. As a matter of fact, the higher the interest rate, the more the interest you pay is. So if you had an interest rate over 6%, you'd be paying more in interest than the cost of the house. I don't know if this is the last kind of problem, but I'm getting close to the end. No, we've got 2 more kinds of problems. Yeah, I think just 2 more kinds of problems. All right, so next kind of problem. So sometimes when you take a loan, you get a payment that's as big as you possibly can afford, because that's common. When I'm buying a car, I usually kind of max out my budget. Similarly, if I buy a house, I kind of max out my budget. At some point, if you have a loan long enough and you get raises, you might want to start adding money to your monthly payment, and that will cause your vehicle to get paid off quicker. So if you've got a car loan right now and you know how much you owe on it, if we can compute how much quicker or how long it's going to take to pay off the loan if I bump up my payment. And that's what these next problems are for. So in this example, I owe $15,000 on a car loan. The interest rate is 5%, and I'm going to start paying $250 per month. How long is it going to take me to pay it off at that rate? So what I'm going to do is gear up. So the N is actually what I'm going to solve for here. The N is the number of payments. This is kind of the first problem that was on my calculator when I started introducing this section. The I is the interest rate, which is 5%. The PV is the loan amount. I don't know what the loan amount is, but I know that I owe $15,000 on this car. And for this problem, the PV is going to be what we still owe on the car. And it's positive because loan amounts are positive. And payment is what I'm paying each month. Here it's negative $250. Payments go in as a negative. And this bottom part's going to be the same. I'm going to have FV0, PY equal to 12, CY equal to 12. I'm going to leave my calculator on end. So if you had a car loan right now, if you knew the balance of the loan, you put that in for the PV. You knew the interest rate of the loan, put that in for the I, put your payment in as negative, and then solve for N. It'll tell you how many months it's going to take to pay off. And I'll do that here. So I'm going to go Apps, Finance, TVM Solver. Doesn't matter what's in the N. My calculator will clean it up when I get to it. So I'll put 5 in for the interest rate, 15,000 in for the balance of the loan. That's 150,000. Negative 250 in for the monthly payment. Future values 0, PY and CY are 12. I'm going to go up to get my cursor flashing at the end because I'm solving for the number of months that it'll take to pay off. I'll hit the green alpha button and I'll hit enter, and it comes out to 69.19 months. And so it'll take you little over 69 months. And I wrote down it would take 69 payments of $250 and then one small payment. So your payment would be less than $250. And it's not ridiculously hard to figure out how to figure out what the partial payment would be, the 70th payment, but it's not important enough to make it, and it's messier. So we'll just say just about 69 months would be perfect. A little over 69 months. 69, well, that's a long time. That's almost 7 years. It's almost 6 years, because 5 years is 60 months, 6 years is 72 months. So this is 5 years and 9 months, I guess. All right, so now we split the problems up. I'll do 20. And in each of these problems between 19 and 24, we're solving for the N. The I is going to be the interest rate. It's going to be given. The PV is the amount that you owe. It's going to be given. The PMT is the amount that you're paying. It's going to be given. It should be negative. The PY and the CY for every loan problem is going to be 12 because we're making monthly problems every time. And for every problem in this chapter, we leave our calculator on end. So for my problem 20, the $25,000 that's still owed is going to be the PV. The 7.9, that's the interest rate, is going to be the I. And the $450 a month that we're making as a payment needs to go in as a negative. So now I'll break my calculator out, and 7.9 for the I, 25,000 for the PV, negative 450 for the payment. Move up to the N, hit the green alpha button and hit enter. Really? Green alpha button and hit enter. That's surprising. It's almost the exact same number for my problem. So it's 69.39 months. So I'll say about 69 months, knowing that it's going to take 69 full payments and then I'll have just a little bit left over to pay off. 22 and 21 work the same style of problem. So I need an N I'm going to solve for, interest rate's going to be given, balance of the loan's going to be given, payment amount's going to be given, future value is going to be 0, PY is going to be 12, CY is going to be 12, and my calculator needs to be on end. So in this problem number 22, the $8,500 that's still owed on the car goes in the PV. The 4, that's the interest rate, goes in the I. The $250, that's the payment, goes in as a negative $250. Well, it can't be 69 months this time because we don't have that long to go, I don't think. So on my calculator, and I'm solving for it, doesn't matter what's in there. I is 4, PV is 8,500, PMT is negative 250, and I haven't had to change anything else, which is the nice thing about the loan problems. Move up to N and go alpha and enter, and I get 36.15 months, so just a little over 3 years. 36 months is 3 years. So I can say about 36 months, or I can say about 3 years. Those both would be fine. Last one is this should be an awesome car. This should be home loan, I imagine, unless you're driving some Maybach or something insane. So for my problem, same problem. It doesn't matter if it's a car or a house loan. The computation's the same. If you know how much you owe and what your payment's going to be, you can figure out how much longer it's going to take to pay off. So on problem 24, the N is what I'm going to solve for. The I is the interest rate. The PV is the amount that I owe. It goes in positive. The PMT is the amount that I'm paying. It goes in negative. And for all our loan problems, the future values were 0. The PYs were 12. The CYs were 12. And I left my calculator on end. In my problem 24, the PV is 200,000. The interest rate is 6.25%. And the PMT is negative 950. So if you have a house and you know how much you owe and how much you pay each month, you can figure out how long it's going to take to pay off. You have to subtract out from what you're paying each month any amount that goes for taxes and insurance. So I plug in 6.25 for the N, $200,000 for the PV, negative 950 for the payment. Everything else is good. Scroll up to the N, hit alpha and enter, and I get somebody who's an idiot. I don't know what I did wrong. 200,000, 6.25%, 200,000. I don't see a mistake. Let me enter that again. Alpha and enter. So I entered something wrong, and I don't know what I did wrong. So I'm gonna retype. I'm gonna go 6.25 20000. Oh, I think I know what it's not doable. You'll never. It's telling me I'll probably never pay it off because let me do this real quickly. $200,000 times 6% divided by 12. Oh, the interest rate is 1,000. You pay 1,000 a month in interest. You'll never pay it off. Is what it's. The error it was telling me was you made a stupid problem up without because you didn't think. Because this loan has $1,000 a month in interest. If you pay $950 a month, you'll never get it paid off. I have to change this problem. Let me say you're going to pay $1,200 per month. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Sorry about that. So on the odd problem, you shouldn't have that problem. But for mine, it was telling me I was an idiot, essentially, and it's not far from the truth. So sorry about that. Back to my recalibrated problem. So the problem that will work, I'll put in negative $1,200 for the payment, and now go solve for n. And that's going to take 389.88 months. That's more than 30 years. It's like 32 years, 33 years. So it's going to be 389.88 months. And yours, I don't know what yours. Well, your loan is a less amount, and your payment's about the same, and your interest rate isn't that big. It should be a smaller number. What I think is going to be the last kind. Oh, yes, the last kind of problem. And this, you know, my brother's name Anthony. He always likes to know this. He likes to drive insanely expensive trucks. So we have Anthony can afford $350 a month for his truck payment. That's not really that impressive of a truck payment. You won't get a lot of truck for that. Question is, if he financed for 6 years at 72 months at 5%, how much of a loan can he get? Easy enough to do. So for part A, the N is going to be the number of payments he's willing to make, and it's a 6-year loan, so the N is going to be 72. The I is going to be the interest rate he's going to qualify for, which is 5%. The PV, this is what I'm solving for. I don't know how much of a loan he can take, but I do know how much of a payment he's willing to make. His payment he is willing to make is $350. Should put it as a negative because it's money he's spending. And for the FV, I'm still going to owe 0 at the end. For the PY, I'm still going to use 12. For the CY, I'm still going to use 12. And I'm going to leave my calculator on end. And I don't know, a $350 a month payment, I guess that's like maybe a $25,000 car, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to have my calculator sure it up for me. The N, I'm going to type in 72. The interest rate, I'm going to do 5%. The payment, I'm going to do negative $350. Everything else is okay, and now I'm going to have it solved for PV. So I scrolled up to the PV, hit my green alpha button, and hit enter, and it's $21,732. You're not getting a new big truck for that, and 47 cents. Part B, same question, but what if we want to do 5 years as opposed to 6 years? Well, for part B, everything's going to be the same except the N, because I'm still getting a 5% interest rate. I'm still making the same $350 a month payment. Still getting 0 in the future. The PY and the CY are still 12. So for my calculator purposes, the only thing I'll need to do is bump the N down to 60, go over to the PV, and it's going to be lower. If in 7 years at a $350 a month you can get $21,000, in 5 years it's going to be less because you're making a lot less payments. And it's going to be how much less? It's going to be $18,546.75. So for part B, $18,546.75. Dollar sign. I think that's the last kind of problem. And it's got to be hopefully realistic to somebody to know this is what I can afford each month. These are the terms I can manage, and figure out my payment. So you can get 25. I'll do 26. So for 26, my A and my B, they're going to be essentially the same, other than there was one change. So for 26A, the N is going to be 72. I'll write these horizontally because I don't have much room. The I is going to be 2.9. The PV is what I'm solving for. The PMT, Sarah can do -400. Future value is going to be 0. My PY is going to be 12. My CY is going to be 12, and I'm going to leave my calculator on end. So if I enter all that, that will tell me $400 a month, low interest rate. It's going to be, I bet you that's going to be like $28,000, but I don't know that for a fact. So my calculator will do it for me, even if I have no clue, it'll still do it. So my N is going to be 72. My interest rate's 2.9, and -400 for the payment. Go up to the present value and hit alpha and enter. Yeah, $26,404.42. So for Sarah in 6A, $26,404.42. To do part B, it's going to be the same, except the N now is going to be bumped up to 84, and so all this stuff is going to be the same. And when I go to do this on my calculator, that means all I need to do is change the N. So I'm going to go to my calculator, change the N to 84. I'm adding another year's worth of payments, so it's going to add something to that $26,000, and it makes it go to $30,376. I think it's 3 cents. So $400 a month at a smoking interest rate over 6 years is $26,000. Over 7 years is $30,000. So you can completely, play with the calculator based on if you're thinking about getting a new vehicle. You could figure out an interest rate. You could just look online to see what interest rates are available based kind of on what your credit is, or you can go to a credit union. They'll tell you that for free. I always suggest that if you're going to take a car loan, that you should go to a bank or a credit union, get pre-approved first with an interest rate so that you know the worst case scenario. You don't have to use their interest rate, their loan, but at least you can, when you go to the dealership, you can say, well, my credit union's going to give me a loan and the interest rate is 4.9% for 6 years, so that you know what exactly, they can't make you do worse than that. If you go in there and your credit's a little bit dicey and you're not pre-approved, then you can really get hammered with some really horrible terms, really disgustingly high interest rates. All right. 28, this is my sister-in-law who currently has breast cancer, but she's doing amazingly well with it. She just has like 2 rounds of chemo left. And by the time you're seeing this, she'll be done with chemo. So, how much? Lisa can spend $300 for a truck, and let me figure out what loan she could get. So my N's going to be the number of payments she's willing to make. In this case, it's 72 for Part A. The I is the lovely teaser 2.9% rate, which you need smoking credit for. The PV is what we're solving for. PMT needs to go in as negative. It's -300. PY for all the loan problems were 12. CY for all the loan problems were 12. FV for all the loan problems were 0. And I needed end. I kind of put these in out of order, but they're all there. So N is 72. 2.9 for the interest rate, and negative 300 for the payment. Everything on the bottom part doesn't change for the loan problems. I hit alpha and enter, and I get $19,803.31. So for part A of numbers 28, $19,803.31. For part B, everything else is the same other than the N is going to bump up to 84. That's 7 years. And for 7 years as opposed to 6 years, it's going to go up. So I'm just going to go to my calculator, change the N to 84, move down to the PV, hit alpha and enter, and I get $22,782.02. So $22,782.02. I'm sensing we're probably right at the edge of the, yeah. We've got 29, 30, and 31. I only have one more problem, you have two. Herman and Lily being the monsters, again, you know that. So let me bust this out. They want a home loan. Their number of payments is going to be 360. Their interest rate is going to be 4.25%. I'm finding out what size loan they can take. So I'm solving for the present value. They're paying $900 per month, goes in as a negative. At the end of their home loan, they want 0 to be the balance. PY and CY and all loan problems are going to be 12, and my calculator is going to be an end. The savings problems that we do in the next section are a little bit harder because the PY and the CY aren't always 12, and the signs vary a little bit. So we'll start putting values into the future values, so they're a little bit harder, but they're not. We'll just take them step by step, so they shouldn't be ridiculous. So I'll just do these on my calculator. So 360 for the N, 4.25 for the interest rate, negative 900 for the PMT, go up to the PV, alpha and enter, and they can get a $182,000 loan. So my answer for Herman and Lily is they can get $182,949.18 loan for a house if they want their payment to be $900 per month, ignoring taxes and insurance, which could be an extra $150 a month for this purposes. So you should be able to have 29 done, and then you also have problem 31 with Jethro Bodine and Ellie Mae Clampett. Clearly was really bored when I was writing these. So do that one and then check all your answers and we'll be done with this section. Like I said, the next section's a little more complicated just because the PY and the CY won't always be 12. The signs will fluctuate from problems to problems depending on it's saving up for retirement and then spending our retirement savings. And while you're saving up for retirement, the signs and the numbers go in one way. While you're spending your retirement, they go in another way. So it makes it a little bit harder, but not ridiculous. So hopefully you got through this smoothly and you found something in this section that wasn't, like why the heck are we doing this? When will I ever use this? Because there's got to be something in here that you would find at least usable.